What's happening, everybody? Good afternoon. We are here once again on the Syracuse Orange Football Facebook page, chatting live. We are chatting live after a disaster for Syracuse football, to put it bluntly, as the Orange fall to NC State, a final score at the Carrier Dome of 36-29. And on senior day, a senior in Rex Culpepper, boy, you got to feel for the kid, but made a major blunder at the end of this game, an inexplicable blunder at the end of this game that cost Syracuse a chance at victory. Syracuse driving down the field with the opportunity to score against NC State, who had a 36-29 lead, which ends up being the final score of this game. And two plays really sealed it for Syracuse, not even giving itself a chance to score and maybe take this thing to overtime or maybe go for two and score and win this game. But they didn't even give themselves a chance to do that because of this, as we are chatting with you here live on the Syracuse Orange Football Facebook page. Thanks to Krause Health. Thanks to everybody for being here, as always. But here were the big mistakes. Third down and goal. Rex Culpepper gets flushed out of the pocket, and Rex Culpepper is running and running and running and running and does the one thing you cannot do on that play is take a sack. There had been a couple of previous passes in the fourth quarter where Rex also did not throw the football the way he should have. There was a play earlier on that drive where Rex threw the ball away almost right into the hands of an NC State defender. Earlier in the fourth quarter, same thing. Didn't throw the ball out of bounds, didn't get rid of the football and preserve the play for Syracuse. So as if that was bad enough, now the clock is ticking. Everybody's scrambling. Syracuse is out of timeouts at this point because they had to call their last timeout of the quarter, of the game, really, with 52 seconds to go. It's fourth and goal. They actually line up and have time to snap the football. They got everybody back. It would have been a desperation play, but at least a play. And Rex Culpepper spikes the football on fourth down and goal. Yeah, that ends the game. NC State wins 36-29 in a game, in a lot of ways, they didn't even deserve to win. Syracuse, the fact that they were in this game was something. Look, it took a lot of big plays, a 60-yard touchdown to Nykeem Johnson. They had a kickoff return for 98 yards in this game. It takes weird things for this Syracuse football team to be competitive. So throw everything aside about the ineptness of the offense, and we'll discuss that, the play calling and everything that was frustrating to watch for this game. They've got the ball in the fourth quarter with a shot. And that's all you can ask, particularly from this team. I mean, every prediction, everybody on syracuse.com that covers this team predicted scores of 30-7, 45-7, something of that nature. And why would you pick Syracuse to be competitive in this game? They got shut out a week ago, 30-0. This is a team that was putting Rex Culpepper back in. The plan was, to my understanding, that freshman Dylan Markowitz was actually going to get some reps in this game as well. But a funny thing happened on the way to that. Syracuse was actually competitive. Syracuse was actually in this game, managed to hang in this game. This defense making play after play after play, even though Bailey Hockman, NC State's quarterback, we'll go over some numbers here shortly, made some great throws in this game. Ife Melifonwu and Garrett Williams had not given up touchdowns all year. They did that. But look, the Syracuse defense did what it needed to do. They made enough stops. NC State was great on third down in this game, but you can't really fault the defense in some ways for this. There are some plays you can. Through it all, NC State just kept finding ways to hand Syracuse opportunities to stay in this game. And that's what Syracuse did. They made enough plays on offense, as bad as Culpepper was, and those plays are just absolute brain cramps, just inexplicable for a veteran player like that. And my heart goes out to him. I know you out there know the story of Rex Culpepper, how he overcame testicular cancer. He is an amazing kid, but we're talking about football. We're analyzing his play. Just absolutely, I can't even process that we just watched that. That's the amazing thing about doing this live, is it's been a few minutes and my brain has not processed the fact that on fourth and goal, he spiked the football. Remember a few weeks ago in the National Football League when Tom Brady, who ironically enough is a neighbor of Rex Culpepper in Tampa, Florida. True story. Remember, Tom Brady thought he had more downs, but he's holding up the 4, and the refs are like, no, sorry, you're done, right? So even the greatest quarterback in the history of the game has made that mistake, but you cannot make that mistake. You cannot get sacked on 3rd down. This really comes down to quarterback play. Rex made a couple of plays in this game. We mentioned the 60-yard touchdown to Nykeem Johnson, a couple throws that he had to make. Taj Harris was terrific in this game. You know, for all the faults Taj has had, at times this year has kind of shown an attitude, and, you know, I don't blame him in some ways with the ineptness of the Syracuse offense. He has not gotten the ball as much as he should. He got the ball today. They fed Taj Harris, and he played hard. He fought for extra yards after the catch. And to waste a performance like that, and waste a performance where Syracuse just did enough to be in the game with a chance to grab a second win. Because, look, they're going to go to South Bend next week, and they're going to get trucked by Notre Dame. I think we all know that. This was their last true chance at victory to go into an offseason with something. And it's now an offseason of a lot of questions, because we know that Syracuse is not going to fire Dino Babers. And I know a lot of you are saying that in the comments. I don't blame you for that take. This is going to be a 1-10 football team, so I really don't blame you for that opinion. I don't. But realistically, it's not going to happen. You know, if Syracuse fired Dino Babers, they would owe him, there's no exact number to pin because his contract is private. Syracuse is a private school. They do not make that information public. But from what we understand from some well-placed sources and some college football insiders, after they gave Babers a contract extension a few years ago, or last year, that takes him a few years down the road to 2024, they would owe him probably about $15 million. So if you're going to fire the coach, you got to pay him that money. Then you got to pay the next guy, which would likely result in another buyout, plus the staff. And this is just not adding up financially, particularly in a pandemic, in a year where you haven't had fans in the stands, normal sources of revenue coming in. So for those of you that have that opinion football-wise, I can't push back on you there, because this is going to be a 1-10 football team, just the second one-win team at Syracuse since 1949. And after the first one in 1949, Ben Schwartzwalder took over and brought a golden age of football to Syracuse. And of course, Greg Robinson had a 1-win season as well. And then some NCAA things kind of took that win off the board. So technically it's not a 1-win season anymore, but we all saw it. We know what happened there. But it's not good one way or the other. But Syracuse is just not going to pay that money. So you put so much pressure on yourself in 2021 to turn this thing around, to get healthy. You hope your recruiting staff, your recruiting class, I should say, put some instant talent on the field. And this is a Syracuse team that started 6 freshmen on defense as it is. So it's such a contrast, because I know they're not going to do it. But then you put so much pressure on yourself in 2021 to do it. But to end this game in that fashion, I know they're college athletes. They all make mistakes, pressure situation, but man, that's not the way you want to go down. You want to go down at least throwing to the end zone, trying to make a play. You fight to the end, you lose. It happens. But just such a poetic way, frankly, for Syracuse to lose in this season, in which they have found new and imaginative ways to lose football games. So they're going to be 1-9 after this game. They are 1-9 after this game. They will be 1-10 after they lose to Notre Dame next week. And that's it. That's what we're staring at here as Syracuse football fans, 1 win. So I'm going to respond to what some of you guys are saying in the comments here, but let's just go over some of the numbers from this one here. NC State had 27 first downs to Syracuse's 16 in this game. How about this number? Syracuse had 3 yards rushing in this football game. 25 carries for 3 yards. NC State 44 carries for 95 yards in this game. It's amazing to look at these stats here. Syracuse averaging 0.1 yards per rush in this game. They only rushed the ball 25 times for 3 yards. Incredible. On the passing side of things, NC State, 23 receptions for 313 yards. Syracuse at 23 for 254. All told, in the offensive category, 75 plays, 408 yards for NC State. Syracuse ran 70 plays for 257 yards. What we have seen lately with this Syracuse football team is a huge gap in plays. You know, one team will have 80 plays, Syracuse will have 50, something of that note. They actually kept pace in this game, but all for naught, as we saw what happened at the end of the game. NC State had 5 penalties for 40 yards in this game. Syracuse had 7 penalties for 74 yards on third down. NC State was very efficient in this game. 8 of 13. Syracuse 8 of 20. That's actually a lot better than they've been. They're one of the worst third down teams in college football. So for the Orange to be 8 of 20 is incredible. And you look at the fourth down stat here, 1 of 2. And the reason they're 1 of 2, Rex Culpepper spiked the football on fourth down and goal, something that my brain is still trying to comprehend here. All told, Rex, 23 of 45 on the day, 254 yards and 2 touchdowns. We mentioned the great game by Taj Harris, 13 catches for 146 yards, including a touchdown and a 26-yard completion. If you add up the rest of the receivers on this team, Nykeem Johnson, Courtney Jackson, Anthony Quealy, Luke Benson, Aaron Hackett, Sean Tucker, okay? If you add up all of their receptions in this game, and I'm just doing the math here quickly in my head, they had a total of 10 catches on the day. Taj Harris had 13. So that tells you, and why wouldn't you? Rex was throwing to Taj because Taj was getting open. He was fighting for yards. You feed the hot hand. I have no problem with that. You'd like to see a little bit more diversity, if you will, on the offensive side of the ball, but you feed the hot hand. He was the guy who was open and proved what kind of number one target he could be on the day. We told you about the rushing yards. Sean Tucker, 16 carries for 18 yards individually. One of the reasons Syracuse only ended up with 3 yards on the day. Nykeem Johnson had a 10-yard loss on a reverse. Rex Culpepper with a 7-yard loss at one point, so that knocks the rushing yards way down. But, you know, Tucker, 16 carries for 18 yards on the day. Certainly not what you usually get from a number one running back, a future star for Syracuse, a great player, one of the bright spots in the freshman class overall, but certainly not today. Syracuse could not open up the rushing game at all on the day. Bailey Hockman for NC State, 23 of 31, 313 yards, 4 touchdowns. He was sacked 6 times today. Syracuse got an interception. Melon Fonwu with the tackle. Michael Jones with an interception. Michael Jones also had a really bad face mask penalty in the fourth quarter, which led to NC State scoring. A rare mistake for a great young player there, the sophomore linebacker for the Orange. But they did get pressure on Hockman. They did make him run out of the pocket. Bailey Hockman had a touchdown taken away when it showed that before he hit the pylon on a rushing touchdown, that the ball was fumbled and went through the end zone. That's a touchback, right? So replay showed that took that off the board. Bailey Hockman at one point, this was a game full of things I've never seen before. Bailey Hockman under pressure in the end zone, and he throws the ball away behind him, which I've never seen that before, right? So that's a safety for Syracuse. We mentioned Syracuse was getting just enough breaks through this game, whether they deserve them or not, to at least be in the running to win this thing at the end. So all told, though, Hockman with some great throws. Thomas had 3 touchdown catches on the day, including one Garrett Williams, who does not give up touchdowns. He's one of the better corners in the country in that department, but he did on that play. And just looking at some more stats here for NC State, Kerry Angeline, their terrific tight end, he had 5 catches for 88 yards. Amizi with the winning touchdown ended up being in the fourth quarter. He had 4 catches for 33 yards, including that touchdown. Running the football today for NC State, Ricky Person had 17 carries for 61 yards on the day. Bam Knight had, 11 carries for 57 yards on the day and a touchdown. But it was the Bailey Hockman show, 313 yards passing, and NC State ends up with a win that we're still sitting here saying, how did that happen? How did they win that game in the fashion that they did? No matter what we say, I wanted to give you the full scope of things, go over everything that happened in this game. But what this will ultimately come down to is Rex Culpepper making just an inexplicable decision at the end of this football game. 2, really. A lot, really. But the 2 you'll center on, the third down play, 3rd and goal, where he gets sacked, the one thing you can't do, and then 4th and goal, spikes the football. Wow. it's appropriate in a way. It's been that kind of season for Syracuse. So let's respond to a few things that you guys and gals are saying here. Thanks for checking in, no matter where you're checking in from today. I know a frustrating game to talk about here after what was a frustrating game on Friday night, too, a win by Syracuse basketball. But Jim Boeheim saying after the game, they shouldn't have even played, right? It's been a weird 48 hours or so watching Syracuse athletics for sure, but at least at the end of the day, the basketball team won. Syracuse football losing in just an unimaginable way here. Robert saying this is the worst coach team in football. A lot of you saying fire Dino, worst team in the country. Thomas saying Dungy was the reason for the 10 wins a couple of years ago. Scott saying thank God this season is over next week. Mike brings this up. A few of you have brought this up, and I've got to go over this because we can't let it kind of fall in the shadows with how the game ended. And that is the play calling of Sterling Gilbert. I'm sorry, I'm not impressed with this guy. There's a lot of times where I just scratch my head, and I know he's had to go through a few different quarterbacks this year. Tommy DeVito, Rex Culpepper, Jacoby and Morgan. Morgan gets hurt. There was thought that Dylan Markowitz actually could have played in this game. He ended up not playing. So that's not an easy spot to be in. I understand that. But down and distance, certain situations, for example, Syracuse is a 1st and goal at the 5-yard line after that interception I brought up a little bit earlier. And they throw the ball 3 straight times. Now, I know the running game struggled today, but how does Sean Tucker not touch the football once in that spot? They got to settle for a field goal there. And just times where you're really scratching your head down in distance, how many times Syracuse is in 3rd and 10, for example, in 4-down territory, and he calls a play for Rex Culpepper to chuck it down the field. It's all or nothing in this offense, it seems. We're going to throw it deep, or we're going to throw it really short, but nothing in between. Nothing, those slant routes, throwing to the tight end. They actually did throw to the tight end more than usual today. It didn't work out, unfortunately, but this kind of all or nothing approach from Gilbert is befuddling to me. And I don't like this hire. I don't like this play calling. It's now 10 games in with an 11th next week at Notre Dame, where Syracuse really is going to struggle, let's be honest, in that one. When you look on the other side of the ball, Dino Babers made a great hire. The irony is Gilbert is the guy he's coached with before, he's in lockstep with, has the same philosophy with, and this offense has regressed. It's one of the worst in the country now and needs some major renovations. This tempo offense, Syracuse actually had to slow things down this year to actually have a functioning offense. But that philosophy is in dire straits, right? It's just not what it used to be. Teams are not intimidated by it. Defenses have figured it out. It's not an advantage anymore. So Dino goes out and hires Tony White. Now, Dino's always had his eye on the 3-3-5 defense and wanting that to be a defense, and finally got around to doing that. There is a lot to look forward to on that side of the ball. All the young players that have stepped up. We mentioned a few names: Garrett Williams, Ife Melifonwu, Stephon Thompson, Garrett Williams, Michael Jones, the sophomore linebacker. They led the country in takeaways. I think people like the defense. They're encouraged by at least the philosophy of the defense, but the offense just time after time after time does nothing with these turnovers that the defense hands to it and the opportunities that it gives. So last year, Syracuse cleaned house, fired both coordinators. Tony White looks to be a terrific hire. Sterling Gilbert does not. And it's interesting because there's a couple reporters that I interact with on Twitter that used to cover Sterling Gilbert, and they always kind of parachute in during these games when we're analyzing what's happening, play calling, and they just kind of give the digital version of "I told you so," right? So I've seen some of you making these comments here in the chat, and I could not agree with you more. I'm not impressed with this guy. I don't know what the hook is. I don't know why Dino Babers is so impressed with him. Time after time, and there are limits on talent. This is a bad offensive line. We mentioned the quarterback rotation, but you know that 1st and goal from the 5-yard line is just encapsulates the whole thing. It's a microcosm of what we've seen all year long, where time after time we're like, what are you doing? What are these play calls? And look, that points at Dino as well, because Dino's supposed to be the offensive guru. He's supposed to be the offensive mind. These are the two, as I mentioned a moment ago, that are supposed to be in lockstep, right? And the offense has been a disaster. It's just been a disaster, even when some of those factors we brought up are not apparent, where you have momentum, where you're on the 5-yard line, where you just like, why are you calling this play in that spot? It's nothing to do with talent. It's nothing to do with some of the faults that Syracuse has. So, yeah, that's got to be fixed. But if you're going to continue to rotate coordinators, then that creates even more chaos, right? Because the more you change coaches, change philosophies, offense has to get used to new things. I mean, that's the spot that Syracuse is in right now. But I hope Sterling Gilbert gets a long, hard look by Dino Babers, and maybe you just kind of cut bait and say this isn't working. But if he does come back, and I think it's likely he's going to, they have got to change things on offense. So one way or the other, there better be big changes in 2021, because this whole orange is the new fast tempo approach for Syracuse, I'm sorry, it's just not overwhelming people anymore. You can still run some version of it, right? You can still have some of the plays in there. You can still go tempo. You can still be aggressive on the offensive side of the ball, but they're not even aggressive now, right? And I don't even think they would be if they got some players healthy that needed to be there, if Tommy DeVito was still out there, quarterback, no matter what the situation was. This offense has been exposed as kind of a dinosaur, and I think Syracuse needs to make some major philosophy changes there on offense based on what the talent that they have. And they better hope they hit the transfer market hard. They better look for a quarterback in the transfer market. There's a lot of talk about Garrett Schrader, the Mississippi State transfer that's out there. We'll see about that. Remember, the 1-year transfer rule where you have to sit out a year is gone. The NCAA is going to remove that for next year, and a lot of players are going to be changing. They did that this year because of coronavirus. The NCAA granted a lot of transfer waivers where players did not have to sit out a year before playing. That's going to be normal now, a one-time rule where you can transfer anywhere without that 1-year penalty. So there's going to be a lot of players looking for opportunities next year, and Syracuse has got to find some talent at quarterback. But even if they do that, right, these are temporary placeholders. These are patches. These are Band-Aids. What you want is a coaching staff that can recruit and develop talent from the beginning, which, again, to be fair, on the offensive side of the ball, Sean Tucker was your 5th running back. They found a star there. He didn't have a good game today, but they found a player there. Look at all the talent on defense that they found, making plays, look like they belong out there in the right system, making plays. So this coaching staff has proven they can do it in spots, but they've got to do it where it's most important, and of course, the most important position on the field. I don't know any inside information about this. I think Blake, I see you asked the question here. Does DeVito put his name in the transfer portal? I have no inside information on this. I'm just speculating. I think it's likely. I think Tommy sees the writing on the wall. I think Tommy's going to, I would never want to speak for him. But just looking at the circumstances, does he kind of analyze it and say, I'd be better off somewhere else with a fresh start and an offense that better suits my talents? And that's what Syracuse needs. They need a quarterback that can scramble. I hate to just say, go find another Eric Dungy, but a player like that. And maybe we thought Jacobian Morgan could have been that guy. He's still young and raw and has time to develop here. But even Bailey Hawkman today, not the fastest guy in the world, but extending plays, getting to the outside, getting his receivers open. He had that touchdown run taken away, but ran a bootleg. Syracuse defense completely fooled by it. Even just a quarterback that can do that, that's what they need. And right now they don't have it, and they got to go find it, either in recruiting, and we'll see what Justin Lawson brings to the table, a kid from California who's in the class of 2021. But you have to get very aggressive at the most important position on the field, and I think DeVito may kind of feel that heat, and I think it's likely he puts his name in the transfer portal. But again, that's just speculation on my part. All right, I'll tell you what do you say we end it there for the evening here? And I really appreciate you guys coming by. We've got one more of these to do next week after Syracuse takes on Notre Dame. That is a 2:30 kickoff in South Bend. So get on here on Facebook Live after that matchup. And just a reminder, we're going to be doing these for basketball as well. Just hop over to the Syracuse Orange Basketball Facebook page for those chats after every game. Coming soon, we're actually going to be expanding this to other formats, Twitter, YouTube Live, a couple other things. We'll always put the video up on our Syracuse Orange Sports YouTube page. If you want to watch it on replay, I always pop that in my recap as well on syracuse.com. Hope you can read all our great coverage from Nate Mink, Chris Carlson, myself, and the crew. That'll be up throughout the evening here on Saturday and on Sunday morning as well. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Boy, did we just watch something that if I had told you this is what's going to happen before the game, even in 2020, you would have said, come on, Brent, no way. But that's how it happens. Syracuse spikes the football on 4th and goal and doesn't even give itself a chance to make a winning play at the end. Thus, how it ends. NC State 36, Syracuse 29. Thanks for hanging with us here today. We'll do it one more time for football next week, and we'll continue throughout basketball season as well. Thanks to Krause Health. Thanks to you. We'll talk to you again next week.